Now, what role does fear play in preventing people from having out-of-body experiences, and how can we overcome it?
Fear is the number one way to, well, it's going to limit everything. Fear is the number one way to control your soul, have dominion over your soul. When you have fear going into these states, you put yourself into a box, a prison that's very hard to escape until you overcome the fear. Now, what people fear, when you really go to the core of it, is death.
He is explaining that people attempting to have an OBE ultimately fear death.
And so they prevent themselves due to anxiety, fear. I don't feel like I'm ready for this yet. What happens when you get too excited or too fearful? The body is still has this electromagnetic field. Same with your soul. So let's say, for instance, your soul is on the bed. You start to come out. Your soul has this electromagnetic field. Same with your physical body. Same with your soul. And if you go fearfully with excitement, your electromagnetic field of your soul will start to excite or wake up the electromagnetic field of the physical body, pulling you straight back in. This is why when you come out, you stay calm, you create distance. And when you create distance from the body, this is where, if you are fearless, which you should always be fearless because nothing could touch your soul, it's untouchable, then this is where you start to access records, information. And this is, I want to make this clear too, Alex. This is not just me saying this now. This is all also through the countless successes that people have had through doing this as well, through just practicing simple principles of that which I teach.
When you get rid of the fear and you do leave, the feeling is a shock. But one of the biggest shocks that you'll realize is that when you actually come out, it's going to feel no different than if you've gotten out of bed with your physical body. That's what it's going to feel like. It's literally going to feel like you've stood up out of bed with your physical body. But when you turn back around and look at the bed, your physical body will still be there. You'll be able to touch your hands and it'll feel just as physical as the physical body that you just came out of.
In order to leave and not wake up the body, you need to get into a space where you say to yourself, I'm okay with dying, even though you're not going to die. You just have to be that calm all the time. And that's a hard one for people to break. Deep down inside, the fear arises because they think there's still this 1% doubt that a potential end to you. There is death. And you don't continue living. Your consciousness does not continue when you leave the body. So there's those things sometimes. And it's also, if you have I was just talking to someone the other day that has a child and he was about to come out of his body as well. And it's that him having a child in the background was coming up to the forefront of, all right, I'm in sleep paralysis. I'm just about to pop out. But what if I do die? The fear of death pops in. It's like child wakes you up, anxiety. So fear is the biggest part that stops you from not only accessing the other side, but leaving your body. But a lot of people get stuck typically in battling with their fears there. When somebody first comes out, it's like because their thoughts are projecting in their field, it's typically they see all this nefarious stuff. If they have a lot of fear-based narratives running, and it's like really they're battling with that for a long time. And so they just confront it and pretty much just like, kick it in the face really, and then it just dissolves because I spent quite a long time actually. Years of battling with my fear until I got a grip on my emotions. And I was just like, man, I wasted a whole bunch of time with all this fear stuff. And then when I've gotten rid of the fear around certain things, more access, I got more access to more things. Years of battling with that until I can navigate through that and realize, wait a second, this is, I'm creating this.
So how do you help people through that fear?
It's helping them, but it's giving them reassurance. Most importantly, it's mainly just me saying, this is what you will feel. This is what it will feel like. It's going to feel like you're dying, but you'll pass this stage and then you'll feel this and then you can leave and stuff like that. And it's almost like when they go through that experience and they're like, oh, wow, what Darius has said is actually, that's what I feel right now. And it's that reassurance. It's okay. Yeah, everything's going to be all right. But death doesn't exist. It's something that is not true. You are an eternal being. Your soul is eternal, lives on forever. And all near-death experience people will attest to this. You can listen to many of them. They leave their body, same thing with the out-of-body state. You leave your body, death isn't real. So fear also comes down to, if it's not that, well then what happens to my soul? Could my soul be touched? And they fear that. They fear of entities and beings touching them. And the thing is, nothing could touch or entrap you, the soul, unless you believe it to be so, because your soul's beliefs, your will manifest instantly in that state. So you are untouchable. You are an untouchable soul, and nothing could touch you unless you believe to be so.
Now you realize that, wait a second, consciousness really does exist outside the body, but it doesn't only exist outside the body, but the other side is just as physical as the physical realm that I'm in right now. When you contact other beings as well, they're coming to you physically as well, right? They look different, obviously, taller, etc. It's like they carry more light, more frequency because they've been there longer. So the integration but it's making contact with other beings, making contact with dead relatives.
These are the beings that we all know. These beings, these guides, you have known them for pretty much ever on the other side. It's just in short. So when you're coming out and you're doing this and you're seeing these beings, at first it's a shock, but you have the familiarity of recognizing who they are again. You'll hear this with countless near-death experiences too. People they're like, oh, I know you, I remember you. And it's not until you're there long enough that you start to remember their name and the reason why you know each other.
You do have a body. You do have your individuality. You never lose your individuality because your soul, that individual soul of your spark, it's not like a hive mind of what people think, like you merge, like, yes, you do merge and you have access to all things, but you keep, when you leave Darius, who I am now, all my thought processes that I'm having right now, when I leave my body, they stay the same. Everything stays the same. You just access more comes into you. You get more access to the unseen.
When people have certain thoughts, they are projecting that thought form into their field. They're creating a dimensional space within their field. This is why typically when people dream or lucid dream, they're only accessing typically their field through their dimensional space, their thought forms, experiencing that. This is where you get the extreme of experiencing the pleasures and then also being stuck in quicksand as something's chasing you, right? Just accessing your field typically. And you create with your thoughts and your belief systems. What you believe will create a dimensional space within your field that you will experience your fears. This is why it's very unnecessary, and it's actually a great disservice to people that preach fear-based narrative stuff to a lot of souls, because it's an unnecessary process that they will have to work through when they do cross over and die, which is the transitional space, the white room, which is a transitional space for a reason. So people could confront those fears. So I realized, man, there's nothing to be afraid of.
When you've heard of these negative near-death experiences, most of them are very positive or very enlightening, but I do hear of there is people who have negative experiences, hellish experiences, demons, so on and so forth.
Now, with the near-death experience people, when it comes to the negative things, you'll find if you hold a strong belief system, a really strong belief system, you create these dimensional spaces. So a dimensional space is similar to a dream. So you're creating a space, you're creating a thought form creation within your field, your own space. So when you hold a strong belief system, you will manifest these spaces, these fear-based things. And you'll find, let's just say, for instance, people believe in hell and eternal damnation. They hold that strong belief system. When they cross over, they will temporarily experience that, if that is in the core of their belief, until they say, I've had enough, please help me. And they reach out, and then they access all things again, and they break free from it. That's why the fear-based things is always temporary until they access the divinity again and the light of everything. You can never harm, entrap, or enslave the soul unless it believes it to be so. And that very belief gives your power away to then be imprisoned by fear-based narrative program.
It's distracting you to put your energy into everything that which you're not, right? Putting your focus on not yourself.
Like this fear-based narrative stuff was literally it was like a direct plug into you could say my energy, which was just siphoning it. Right. And so I realized, the fear is the thing that cuts you off from everything. It's the thing that holds you back. I mean, there's many other layers that apply to it, but fear is the biggest thing that holds people back, because fear is the number one way to have dominion over the soul. It's the number one way to control the soul. If a soul has fear, you have control over that soul's expression and its fullest desire to do as it wills. That's what they use here. Immediately when you want to be free, fear this. Fear for your safety. This is what they use as well to get people stuck in a loop, in a cycle, constantly of focusing on the wrong things, typically fear-based narratives, fear-based things, because that collective thought starts to project a certain timeline. And what more energy projected into that timeline, it's basically gets more solidified. I'm always going to bring this back to the truth of how it was presented to me on the other side. Are there forces trying to prevent access to these things? Absolutely. Because that's the whole point of controlling the soul here. Why do you think there's so much fear here? Because fear is controlling the soul, suppression of information, and accessing the things that we all have the right to access. The biggest fear of the ones that control this place is the souls actually truly seeing things for what they really are. What's the most important thing here is what they call the great work, which is waking people up to the other side. Because when they wake up to here, which is the eternal aspect of each soul, they wake up to everything, because everything's available to you when you start to wake up to the true nature of the true universe, of who you are, what we really are. And so when you look at the suppression of information, truth, anyways, the suppression of awakening the dormant abilities within the physical body, and they do that through many things. They do that through medicine, right? I'll just say that. Through a lot of different ways, they suppress the body from decoding the information. Because like I said before, everybody has a body and access to all things, just like everybody, let's just say that your body's a computer, so everybody has access to the internet. So if you want to control and limit the access of information of everybody having access to the internet through the computer, then you would start to self-sabotage and limit certain aspects of the hardware within the computer. So even though it has access, it can't really access it in the way that it truly is meant to access it. So when you could get a soul here through manipulating the body and making it create what they want you to create or believe in, fear, anxiety, panic, all these things, what you end up doing is you end up putting that frequency into the field. And when that frequency is in the field, you suppress, you could say, consciousness from fully waking up. The people that know this place know exactly what they're doing. And those are the people that even when they leave here are going to have to answer for themselves, because the unforgivable sin is a sin that you cannot forgive yourself for. And they are going to face themselves. The judgment is on themselves. The ones that have manipulated the stress and all these things on souls that know what they're doing are doing it to basically, you could say, harvest the energy of the soul, of what it actually is, how it can create with thought forms and everything. They're harvesting that field of energy to create what they want for themselves. Let's just go back into the COVID thing. That was a time when everybody was supposed to fully awaken. People are awakening.
Highest level of average consciousness we've been in forever. Yeah.
And that was part of the bridging between all of what was supposed to happen is all of these things were supposed to turn back on, and people were supposed to see, whether that's throughout a body or just things becoming more revealed to them and knowing again, just understanding. And that's where we were. And so what do they do instantly? Fear, because it shuts and suppresses everything. Even when you're in a state of stress, it actually, your vision just shuts off things. Well, everything is chaotic here because a lot of people think, and if you go back what I said about thoughts, a lot of people think that what they think of just vanish. It just disappears. It doesn't. It's still there. This is where you go into deep things that are hidden, are always presented to you in the foreground. Even with near-death experienced people, when they die, all of their back things that they put in the back of their head are all presented in the forefront, because it all has to be dealt with and seen. There's no walking away from yourself ever. Even when you cross over, you always face yourself. And this is part of the whole judgment thing. It's, you're judging yourself.
A lot of things are distorted within the physical body because like I said, we're experiencing the extremes here, what we're not. So this is where you have the organs, the chakras, DNA, all exists here, not there.
Okay, so chakra, some people say that no such thing as chakras. Some people say that there are. Some people say there's only one. Some people say there's 7, 12. Have you observed any of that?
When you're out, your soul doesn't have chakras. It's one spark one being. It's your soul. Because you don't necessarily have, I mean, you could create energy fields within your physical body here. This is why they've done an amazing job at convincing people that somehow fractalizing their soul spark into many different parts of the body, keeping all those different fractalized versions of your soul within the body, you need to balance those to make you whole and complete. That's a massive distortion and distraction. You don't need to fractalize your soul essence within multiple points of the body to be fully connected to who and what you really are on the other side. That's the distortion and distraction. Give them a bit of truth, lead them down a path of self-sabotage. And
when I say you're naked on the other side, you're truly naked. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? That's just like all aspects of yourself is seen by each soul, and this vice versa. So there's no hiding either. And here you have hiding, and therefore, because of the hiding, you're afraid to be yourself, or because you're afraid to be judged based off your full soul expression. But when you're over there, the naked is you finally let go. You let go of all these stuff that you're carrying on to of, I'm going to be judged for expressing this version of myself, when it's all accepted over there, because you're free to express yourself in whatever way you choose to express yourself with no limitation and no condition. And the uniqueness of each soul is honored. That's where the unconditional love comes into play. It's more of honoring the soul, because you honor that soul's unique expression of all things, because there's no other soul like that in all creation, and you honor that, and you honor it unconditionally. Because why would you want to place a condition on that which has no limitation on it?
So what's some of the most important things that you've learned in your experiences on the other side?
Integrity would be the one, in walking in your fullest expression of self. And I know that can be a very corny thing or new age terminology. You have to just be yourself and not be afraid of not hiding parts of yourself because you're afraid of the judgment of others. Because when you're there, what people feel with the unconditional love is because they are no longer judged. And it's just a relief, and they're able to finally be themselves. That alone is walking in accordance to the way that the true nature of reality is. And so when you could start doing that here, right, you don't end up blocking yourself up, like distorting your own energy, blocking your field, creating distortions. And therefore those distortions creates illnesses within the body. A lot of people have a lot of illnesses within the body that typically has nothing to do with the sickness or the disease, but it has to do with blocking the field. Their field is being blocked. This is why you could get your old grandmother that lives to 105 that drank liquor every single night because she was truly happy and peace in her fullest soul expression. She was in joy. And you could have the person that is focused on all of the newest health things, cleaning themselves, and they die when they're 35 years old. So it's when you contain and restrict the flow of your energy, you're also restricting that very life force, which is your soul, which is to fuel the body that you're within.
The body is just a copy of the soul on the other side. Your soul on the other side could be whatever it is you want, but the body, the physical body, is the perfection of the universal blueprint for the soul's expression. The body is the template for that individual expression. I mean, you could change it, but that is the perfected. And so on the other side, even though you have different races, what are they all using? The template of the physical body, because it's the perfection for a soul to express itself in the ever expanding creation of all things. Nothing's ever trapped, and there's no. This is where you get into a lot of the fear stuff, trapping the soul, the eternal damnation. It entrapped, like people have taken religion where they go, you will go to hell forever, to, the soul could be trapped. It's the same thing. It's the same level of consciousness, just in a different format and different words. You as a soul can never be trapped.
What is the feeling, this universal love that I hear so much of in near-death experiences?
Yes, it's a unconditional love, but I think a better word for it is just acceptance of who I am fully and completely without judgment. That's what you feel, because there's nobody judging you on the other side for who you are, because they understand, just like they understand themselves, that they have the full capacity to do as they will, just like you do. So why would you judge another soul? All you would be doing is condemning that soul, limiting its fullest expression of itself. So it's more of acceptance. You feel accepted for who you are, honored for who you are, just like every other soul should be. I think it's something that you really desire to do here, and understand that how you create those things is through the highest frequency of unconditional love, because this is what they want to get people out of through fear. Your heart, when you step into that, is the creation of things. It's how we create on the other side. We don't create experiences out of love. We create experiences and constructs on the other side from a state of what our soul loves. So stepping into that is in focusing on that which you want to experience, your highest fulfillment. Focus on that and do it from a place of love, and you will start to change reality to accommodate that. There's a practice that people can do to even do that. All right. It's three times a day. You basically say, you command, you speak, I am loving, I am all knowing, I am whatever it is that you want to experience. And you keep on saying that, because words are spells. Your words actually program the body. You say those 3 times a day. Say that for 30 days, 90 days, constantly. You will start to become that, in a sense. No different than if you were to eat healthy food every single day. You will start to become more healthy, more in shape.
Thanks for sticking around through this journey of fear. It's a lot to take in, but at some point, we'll all have to face it. So we might as well start understanding it now. The more we learn, the less control fear has over us. Stay aware, stay curious, and most importantly, keep exploring.